it looks as if we're talking a lot of economic matters, but, well, I think this time around will be slightly different. We've got Mr. Emmanuel Ijere. He is a man of many caps. He's a former member of the National Economic Council. He has chaired agri-business committees. He's worked with former minister of agri to come up with the agri transformation policy. He's also chairman of the Modified Value Added Tax Committee during the former head of State Babangida's era. And so he joins us this morning to shed light on some of the things that are making the rounds today. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on the program today. But if I could just start off straight away, why did they call that Modified Value Added Tax Committee in the first place?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, it was called Modified Value Added Tax because value added tax is principally adding whatever value has been added to any business activity, like manufacturing and so on. That extra value is what you tax. But for Nigeria, it was recommended that we should also include imported luxury items. Because imported luxury items were not manufactured in Nigeria, it cannot really be said to be a value-added tax process. So that's why we call it modified value-added tax, to allow for this importation being taxed of luxury goods, to discourage the importation of luxury goods to Nigeria.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the revenue base of the country, which has been dwindling, I mean, for a very long time. And I think that conversation may still go on for years to come if certain steps are not taken. And today we talk about having to borrow to fund the budget, states having to borrow to ensure they progress. I mean, today there are reports that some governors say they had to borrow to pay salaries. So from having been around working with different government agencies and committees and groups to ensure that the economy improves, is it that we're helpless, or this is how it has to be for a while? How long more? What do we need to adjust to ensure that we boost the revenue base of the country?
Is to allow for efficiency to be the basis of progress. Right now, there's too much politics and less intellectual input. Most of the states of the Federation are capable of increasing their revenue base through internally generated revenue. But because they have been spoiled over the years of going to Abuja and collecting money at the end of every year for spending, and also creates a situation where, since the people are not the one contributing this money, it makes it a lot more difficult for them to see a situation where whatever government spends or misuses, they have no say in it. But if you paid your taxes through value-added tax, through income tax or other taxes, you can challenge the government. And I think that that's one of the issues we are looking at. We have a lot more capacity at state level and at the federal level to collect a lot more taxes. Not through double taxation, because double taxation ends up with taxing the same people over and over and over again, but expanding the tax base. We don't have that in this country. And again, the number of expenditures that we go in for are absolutely responsible. A country like Nigeria, I hate to say this, but why would Britain, with its economy, have a head of state, the Queen, and the head of government, the Prime Minister? Neither of them has a private plane with which they travel. But Nigeria, in our level of poverty, so it's a situation of we're creating problems for ourselves. There's no need to look out there to see where the problems are coming from. Let us first of all believe in each other and say, let us tell each other the truth. Let us cut down. Let us cut down on the amount of expenditures that are irresponsibly being carried out. Thank you.
Quite interesting to hear you say that most states are actually capable of being viable. I mean, raising IGR, just that they've been spoiled over time. And, you know, for a lot of people that have, you know, debated this in recent times, you know, they've come at different points, you know, from different perspectives. You reference the political perspective. But if we could just take everybody back to perhaps when this began, and I think helping people understand the transition from sales to VAT, what exactly played out then, so people cannot better understand how we got here with a view to understanding how we can move forward. So if you could just help our viewers understand how we even started this whole VAT process in the first place.
First, it was a recommendation by the World Bank because they observed that a lot of the states were not really financially viable, but they could raise a lot of capital, a lot of tax from their own basis. Because they have noticed that some states, some very progressive states, Lagos State, you mentioned here, had already started sales tax. And with the sales tax, they were trying to raise entire revenue to improve their own income. But it was not very efficient. And going back to 1991-92, when the quality of people who were administering taxation at the state and federal level were just civil servants who saw it as a job, whereas taxation is a profession that should be taken very seriously. And they recommended, therefore, that Nigeria should replace sales tax with value-added tax. They made this recommendation to President Babangida's government, and they now in turn set up a committee and asked us to be a working group to come up and tell the government, first and foremost, whether value-added tax is workable in Nigeria. It was a 28-man committee. We were given 6 months to do this, but in 4 months we came up with the conclusion that value-added tax is viable in Nigeria, but a number of things needed to be put in place. Then they now converted us into the modified value-added tax committee. And we went to work, got examples from very many countries, especially developing countries, and we came up with a report we presented to the government. The salient point were these: first and foremost, value-added tax was a replacement of sales tax. Sales tax was conceived by the states, and therefore that revenue was meant for the states. The thinking was that you want to create competition between states so that they can do well, they can improve on their collection capacity. However, when we presented the report in 1992, only for us to find out that the Supreme Military Council, what it was then, military government, changed it and said that, it will no longer be what we presented to them. That is that each state should collect its own tax. But because their system was not strong enough, we had a commission that would act as agent for them, collect the monies for them, and at the end of every month, present the report to each state and say, this is the amount we collected from your state. We will take out 5% of it to train your people that within a period of 4 or 5 years, this commission will come to an end and the state government will have enough manpower to collect its own value-added tax. So when we now presented the report, it was very clear. And before we even presented the report, we had discussed with the World Bank, and we had discussed with a number of technical people, including the chairman then of the Federal Revenue Service, then Chief Olorunleke, very, very cerebral gentleman, and with a number of state governments. So, and they were happy about the report. We took it on to the federal government, and the minister at that time was very happy with it. And then presented it to the federal, it was then called the Supreme Military Council. After a number of decisions had been taken, it got to the Supreme Military Council, and when we now heard that the Supreme Military Council changed it and said that no, it should now be taken over by the Federal Revenue Service and all the revenue should come to the federal government, which in fact destroys the actual foundation of the principle behind value-added tax. So, what happened? From investigation, we discovered that a number of military men in Supreme Military Council saw the figures we projected as revenue accruing to individual states going forward. If this commission were allowed to collect these monies with the state governments, and the amount was huge for them, and they said, why should this be left with the states? I remember we were running what can be called a unitary government at that time. So immediately they said, no, this money must not, federal government must not lose this money. And so they decided that you should go to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, who at that time, at the beginning, were not really ready for it, because all the things that were put in there that required to be done had not been implemented. So it was a situation, it was so bad that one of our members, one of the most prominent people, one of the best economists Nigeria has ever produced, the late Professor Sam Aluko, said that he was going to carry a one-man placard and go to Abuja carrying his placard showing that it was unfair on the states to do that. So the committee was set up by the federal government, and we submitted a report to the federal government. There was little we could do under a military government. So that was the situation at the time. And coincidentally, it's now coming back to roost. What we warned Nigeria about is coming back to roost right now.
In what way? How do you mean? Because of the matters that have gone to court now?
Yeah, because we said the whole idea, the whole origin of value-added tax is to help boost state taxes so that they have a lot of expenditure to deal with. And it's easier to do this at the state level. And we also said, look, federal government, you can take the one that is coming from the ports for the imported goods, but whatever was being collected at the state level should remain in the state. That is what is being challenged right now. Each state should collect its own taxes and use it to develop its own state. That is where we say that was at the beginning. The federal government accepted it, but when it got to that small group of powerful people, they changed everything around without considering the consequences.
You know, one of the articles I had read, they were talking about, at that time when they had sales tax, there was no uniformity, so they had to see how they could unify some of these things and give it a proper shape. So are we not in danger of getting back to that kind of scenario if we don't handle things right now? Because something that if we decentralize, you might just face the same kind of scenario again.
For me, things have changed considerably. The state internal revenue departments have become a lot more computer savvy. They have become better educated. They have well-structured people, including the Federal Revenue Service. All of them have improved. So what prevailed at that time that required the commission to do it on their behalf is no longer applicable today because the states have grown to a better position. However, doing this is a matter of reconciliation. If we cannot run away from the fundamental that value-added tax should be collected at the place where it was generated and used for the people from whom it was generated. That's basically what the point is here. It will not create any problem except there is failure or refusal to reconcile with each other. That because of what has happened, if our report was taken the way we presented it, it should have been a lot better and we wouldn't have had this kind of problem. But having gone ahead with all these years, over 20 years of these problems, we need to sit down and then rejig. It's not difficult to rejig, but we must not run away from the fact that Nigeria is a federation and each state should be able to take care of its own revenue and its own expenditures. So I'm not afraid of any serious issues. A reconciliation can always be done and a better rejigging can be necessary to do this.
So if I get you correctly, you say that for this to work, I mean, we don't know what will happen at the courts anyway, but you're saying that essentially the FIRS will still need to work with states, or the states will also need to work together with other states for the reconciliation. Which of them?
Absolutely, exactly. You've got it right. That's exactly what I'm saying. Everybody needs to come to the table and work together what is best for Nigeria and for the community.
But with what we've heard so far, I mean, governors have different perspectives. You hear the River State governor saying this, you hear the Ebonyi State governor saying something else. So clearly it appears as though everyone is still sticking to their positions. But, tax experts tell us that, VAT has the input and output mechanism, as it were. And it's good we're speaking to you. You're not just, renowned tax experts. You also have the benefit of what happened in previous years, from the scratch with this VAT. So regarding this new conversation, will the input and output mechanism be a challenge, and how can that be resolved?
It will be a challenge, but it will not be difficult to resolve. What this means is that, bottom line is that is the final consumer that eventually bears the tax. But at various levels of the value chain, taxes are being charged. That's where the reconciliation issue comes in. And that's why computerization is very important to do this. It cannot be done manually. And it can work itself out. It's not difficult at all with today's technological advancement of the world. So I do see, yes, the input-output VAT is an issue, but it can be resolved. And I see a situation where the quarrel will be, where were the goods consumed? So you don't have a situation where you've charged VAT in a particular state, it goes to another state, another VAT is charged, and both parties are paying to those states. Whereas in actual fact, VAT is the final consumer should bear the VAT, not the manufacturer or the seller of the goods.
But in practical terms now, because I like to look into the future and see how this will work. Say in the debate, the build-up, the way some have pitched this conversation, some say it's a region against the other, some say it's one party against the other. Seeing some of these colorations, which you say clearly does not help. The workability, do you see the states working together in spite of political considerations and the rest? Some thinking that, well, a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. That's what the Ebonyi State governor said. And he thinks that, well, the federal government should still be the one collecting this. So who knows what the court will say. If this now happens, how do you see those states now working together still?
What the Ebonyi State governor is saying is, bringing it side by side with the report we gave to government in 1992, was this: let the federal government collect on behalf of the states, but make the money available to the state to the quantum of what was collected in that state. Well, I can accept that, but again, you have a situation where it's so politically polarized right now that states should not be given that autonomy to determine what they discuss and what they agree. Yes, I agree that it's not possible for any state on its own to start collecting, and then you create a situation where there will be double, triple, quadruple taxation of VAT. I agree with that. However, we must not run away from the principle that Nigeria is a federation, and the collecting money in a state and sharing with another state that could also now go back to where we have always been, that the states don't bother to put effort in their internally generated revenue, will come back to bear. But when you say to them, you will spend only what was collected in your state, then they will become a lot more serious about it. So I'm just simply saying here that it's possible to find a solution, but it must not be imposed. The Constitution has made it clear. I don't know what the courts will come up with. Whatever the courts come up with, I doubt very much whether the mindset of states and the federal government will be the same anymore. They will still have to sit down on a round table to work out the best way, so that at the end of the day, that final consumer or the various consumers of those paying VAT will not be double or triple taxed. That is what needs to be done to discuss it. I think we now have a debate going on, and we can continue with that debate. But that debate can only go on if all parties recognize what the principle of VAT, what the principles of VAT are. And then we can now sit down and work it out. To me, it's not a problem at all. Today, with the level of technology we have in terms of figures and so on, that can be done very easily. Just get this proper software and it will be done.
So when you then say that you think it should be collected from where it was generated, you also think that government can distribute to the quantum with which it was generated. So how is that what we have to do to ensure we address the question or the possibility of multiple taxation on those who are moving from one place to the other, the manufacturers?
All right, if you take a particular product that is produced in Kaduna, and that product, where it's produced in Kaduna, the manufacturer sells it to a wholesaler. The wholesaler charges VAT in selling it to a distributor. The distributor takes it across borders, takes it to the final consumer, and they charge VAT there again. That is where the input-output VAT comes in. That's where you now do a reconciliation within a certain time limit when this can be cleared. We took this into consideration in our report and we analyzed it very well. So if we have the situation that has been created in 1994 has to be corrected first. First, what is the principle of VAT? Who are the people that are supposed to benefit from VAT? Once that is done, it is workable. It is that problem of moving from state to state. If the goods that were produced in a state are all consumed in a state, then there's no problem. It's when you now go across borders that you start having challenges.
Was there any part of your report that was even implemented at all, or was it entirely jettisoned?
No, it was not entirely jettisoned. It was what the part that was jettisoned was the fact that a commission should be set up specifically for a period of no more than 4 or 5 years on behalf of each state to collect on behalf of each state and be accountable to each state. And that commission had a duty to render the accounts in a detailed basis and to train the people in terms of technology to be able to collect VAT. Those were the ones that were jettisoned. Everything else was applied, but because of the collection authority, it had to be adjusted one way or the other before the law came into being.
If your committee report was implemented then, what scenario would we have today?
We will have had a system where there will be automatic reconciliation technologically. In other words, each state is running its own commission and they have a way of working with each other using a common software where we are able to identify the eventual final consumer who should bear that tax. It is the states in which that final consumer resides that will eventually benefit from it. All the other ones that were done before were only theoretical progression, which were meant to trace the value chain through which those particular goods have gone. So it is not a situation that you have. What is going to happen is that identify the final consumer, see all the other people that have now charged, and then create a reconciliation. The place where it was not consumed will not be entitled to the final income on that value-added tax. Was this supposed to have any bearing with payee whatsoever? Eventually, yes. The thinking was that, like I explained a number of times, our thinking at that time was that, like happened in Indonesia, in Thailand, and in Brazil, value-added tax was used as a means of reducing the income tax of individuals. And it was a way of adjusting the social injustices that exist in the system. If you work hard, you get paid, you pay tax at a particular rate, usually the same rate, regardless of what effort you put into it. Whereas in value-added tax, the poorer people paid less tax because they consumed less luxury goods. And so you can use this value-added tax to reduce the level of payee that people are paying, because the quantum of money is coming in from value-added tax will grow, and it will be more for people who are consuming luxury goods to pay this money and reduce the pressure on the poorer people in the society.
As it stands now, we're looking to the courts, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, to at least help us know which way forward to solve this impasse. And clearly there is a big issue. States like Rivers, Lagos. We've seen Ogun now recently even following up the law at the State Assembly, who say that, well, this is how it should be based on the Constitution. So if this swings the other way, the way of the FIRS, for example, I don't know if that will have solved this whole challenge for you. What do you think about it? Maybe a political solution? If it swings the other way, what do you think should follow?
What should follow is, let's sit down around the table. The law or the court does not take away from the rights. The right is that the final consumer pays tax so that his welfare can be looked after by the government where he's resident. On the other hand, the federal government also has a case in the sense that your right stops only when the other person's right starts. In other words, there are goods that go across borders. Therefore, the way out, whatever happens in the court, value-added tax will not be the same anymore. Assuming the Supreme Court says that the value-added tax should still be collected at the federal revenue, I assure you that there will be no end to it, because what's involved here is a huge amount of money, and states who have political responsibility will not allow it to stay there. So the fighting will continue, the confusion will continue, and sabotaging may come into it. So the best approach is, whichever one, I would prefer that both parties start sitting down now to start talking to each other, agree some principles, and then we start working on that. This can go on for many, many years and create confusion, because at the end of the day, the loser is the taxpayer. He does not know who to pay to. If I pay to, I end up paying to the Federal Revenue Service, the state government says pay to us as well. That is the victim. So to avoid and protect this victim from becoming a victim, let us sit down around a table. Intellectual discussion will be what we should come up with. That's what I'm really suggesting. And that report that came out, let's look at that and adjust it to fit the Nigeria of today. That's the recommendation I will make. The courts cannot bring this to an end, because you have woken in the minds of states.
So I believe. Pardon me. I believe you're offering that report again to be reviewed and adapted to the realities of today.
Yes, I am. Yes, if they still have it, I don't know what happened to it eventually. It became a subject for the law, the VAT law that came up at the end of the day. So hand it over to the then Ministry of Finance.
If you could just broaden this a bit, for you, do you see this as a key to unlocking that seemingly impenetrable door of fiscal federalism?
I believe it is the beginning, yes. And what happened, I believe that it was a civilian government we had in 1994, what happened now will never have happened. It will have been sorted out at that time, and the report will have accepted, because all the states we visited were very much in support of it. Even the military governors in the states saw it as a place where they could earn income to increase their own internal generated revenue. I believe that it can be sorted out, and can be sorted out easily. The courts cannot solve it.
All right.
The legislators that are coming up now, they need to understand what VAT is. It's not as easy as I've seen some of the laws that have been now passed. Some of them are not realistic. But nevertheless, when we come together, we can amend those laws to things that will work for Nigeria, so that the final taxpayer does not become a victim of the fight between the two elephants.
Which of the laws are not realistic? The one by the states or the one operated at the federal level?
Some of the laws that I've seen, mainly at the state level, many state legislations came up not remembering the fact that goods move from state to state. You can only make a law for your own state. You cannot make a law that affects another state.
Yeah.
That's one. The other one, you have the modified issue of it. Goods are imported into Nigeria. Regardless of where that port is still a federal revenue. So both the Federal Revenue Service and the State Internal Revenue Service need to sit down together, bring them together and say to them, let's work in a manner that suits the Nigerian taxpayer so you don't overburden him.
So, just to be clear, was it a good idea for the states, Rivers, Lagos, to have followed with that law that we saw recently, the VAT law, that is?
Well, I think first it was triggered off by the judgment in Port Harcourt, and they have virtually accepted as a military legacy, but now the legal angle has been brought to it, and they have seen and tasted it. They've even done the calculation. If you look at newspapers, the amount of money that are collected in the number of states, and what quantum of that money comes back to them. That has now triggered that off. I assure you, they will not keep quiet. There are people who do not want them to keep quiet. But the laws they have made now, in some cases, do not show the reality of how much money should eventually come to them. Because the fact that goods are manufactured in your state does not mean that the value-added tax is payable to your state. So those are the reconciliations I'm talking about. Let everybody come together and understand what the rules of value-added tax is, what the basics are. That is what I'm actually saying here.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere, former chairman, Modified Value Added Tax Committee, former member, National Economic Council, and a chartered accountant. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you.